Okay, so today we're decking the roof, or sheathing. We just call it decking, just like the subfloor on the floor. We call that decking. Um, anyway, so we're sheathing the roof. Uh, what I do is, whether I'm working alone or with other people, I build these temporary um, things to hold the decking at a comfortable height. So when you're working on the roof, you can just pull them up. It's just simple. So these were 16-foot 2x4s. I cut them so they stick up past the edge of the roof, maybe about 1.5 feet. If they're too high up, it's hard because I pulled the decking over the top this way, or over the top here. So I pull over the top of the 2x4s instead of having to go around them because they're up too high. So anyway, um, what I do is I make supports. Hopefully you can see it. Let me get a little bit closer. I mean, if you're watching this on a phone, it's going to be hard to see. But anyway, and then at each lap, where a 2x4 laps on a 2x4, I put about 5 nails or more. It's a lot of weight. I mean, here I need about 26 sheets, I think, to deck one side of the roof. So I put like 14. I put a little bit over, so I put 14 on this one, 14 on the other. But I mean, you can load these up. If you put a lot of nails in, you can load these up with 20, 30 sheets. I mean, I have, which is a lot of weight. So you want to make sure you got enough nails. But I'm doing 14, and then when I do the other side of the roof, I'll do another 12 or 14 and 14. Anyway, yeah. So I make sure that I'm nailed here, with a bunch of nails here, and here, and then I put one across the back to hold the two 2x4s together. That just needs a couple of nails because it's just holding them. It's this 2x4 here and the back of these to hold them apart. And then so now they're real comfortable to get up here. Instead of, some guys have a guy on the ground handing them to a guy up here, but this is easier. They're here, they're waiting. You load them up, you come up and you start decking. First row, I snap a line. So I snap a line here. I like to overhang my sheathing from my sub fascia. So when I put the finish fascia on, which is a 1x6, it goes up underneath the plywood. You don't have to do that. You can start the plywood at the edge of the sub fascia, or hold it back a little bit. It's always better to hold things back a little, 1/8 of an inch or so, and then run your finish fascia up to the top surface of the plywood. It doesn't matter either way. It's just the way I do it. I overhang it a little bit, and the 1x6 will go underneath because it all gets covered when the roofing, with the edge metal, the drip edge. So, like I said, either way is proper. It's just the way I do it. So, see here. So it's overhanging a little bit, and I'll do the same thing here. I'll overhang it, 1/2 inch or whatever, and then my finish fascia will go up underneath. So anyway, yeah. So you just snap a line. And then, so it's 48 inches wide. I want it overhanging like 1/2 inch. So up from the corner from the corner here, I'll say corner. I measure up 47.5, which will leave it overhang 1/2 inch, basically. Snap a line, and then after that, I start the rows. So I start a full sheet down there, and then however it works out down here at the end. And then the next row, I start, halfway. So it's offset basically 4 feet from the row below it, and then it'll come back, and this row, and then this row is back. So you don't end up with all your joints all lined up. You don't want to do that. You don't have to be in the middle. I mean, you could even be over here if you want to. Depends how it's going to work out for waste. Whether you do it in the center or off center, as long as all your joints aren't lined up. Anyway, so it'll repeat. There won't be much waste here by the time the job is done. So that's just how it worked out for this particular house. And then coming up here. So now this isn't nailed in. This is a cutoff from this end, which will be used here. But as you can see, I'll end up with a really small piece here. and that to me is too small. I mean, it's going to be maybe 9 inches. It's too small. It's a safety hazard. So we could step here in the future and that OSB will break. And these are 16-inch centers. If you have 24-inch centers, you have to be more concerned. A lot of framers don't care; they'll just go ahead and put it in. But you could step here in the future, and that would break through. So what I'm going to do is on this last row, instead of being a full 4 feet wide, I'll cut it. What I'll do is I'll make it that this piece up here is 16 inches wide. That way I can get three pieces out of a 4x8 sheet. So if this is 9 inches, for example, I don't know what it is, it's about 9 inches. I'll cut this one back 7 inches, this row back 7 inches, and then I'll put a 16-inch wide piece in here. That way, at least if somebody steps there, it's not going to break. Okay, and like I said, these are 16-inch centers. I mean, if you got 24-inch centers, actually, okay, so they make clips. I think they're called ply clips. Simpson makes them. Simpson, the one that makes all the joist hangers and stuff. They come in a box of like $2.50, and some guys put them on 16-inch centers. And what they do is it's a little metal clip that you put on. You clip it on between, and then when you put your next row, it locks in on the other side, and it makes this piece and this piece move together instead of moving independently at the joint. Okay. Now, this is a lower end house. I try to sell my houses for, like $200,000 or less. So it's not really so much the cost of the clips. They don't cost that much. Maybe the whole house would be $25 worth of clips. I don't know, but it's not much. But it's a lot of extra labor because now, especially when you're by yourself, OSB is always warped a bit. So to try to get those to fit into one another just takes more time. And these are 16-inch centers. If I was doing 24-inch centers, I would definitely use them. With 7/16 OSB. But it's 16-inch centers. I mean, like I said, if this is when I was building higher-end houses, I had the guys doing it just because it's a more expensive home. I mean, I don't think anymore it matters too much with 16-inch centers anyway, because roofers don't use tar paper anymore. They used to use felt paper. We call it tar paper. That stuff tears really easy. So if you're walking on the roof, it could tear the tar paper underneath if the joints were to move independently. But nowadays everybody uses that. I can't think of the name of it. Rhino. It's made by Grace. It's made by WR Grace. It's replaced roofing felt. It's really tough stuff. I mean, it doesn't tear that easy. So if you were to step where two joints are, it's not going to tear the paper like it used to. That was always the fear, is that it would tear the paper or damage the roofing. So anyway, but I didn't use them here. I mean, you can if you want. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just if you're working by yourself, especially, like I said, the sheets are warped. They don't want to fit together too easily, so it's going to take you a little more time. But anyway, I didn't use them here. But despite that, like I said, a 9-inch piece is just too small. It's a safety hazard. Somebody was to step there, and somebody's on the roof in the future, and they're to step there. Even the roofer could do it. But anyway, and then I use ridge vents on all my houses. So I use ridge vents, and then I use the independent, like 10 by 10 inch. We call them Air Hawks. I think that's a brand name. But anyway, we call them Air Hawks. So I'll put several of those, and I like to vent the roof really well. And then the soffits are vented. I use vented soffit. The hardy soffit underneath down at the ends is vented. This 2x4, this is just one I have up here in case I need to cut some blocking, so it's not nailed in. So I always leave, when I cut my sheeting, my decking, from the edge of the ridge, I leave it back about 2 inches on each side. Some guys are less, but I leave about 2 inches. It gives a lot of good airflow for the ridge vents. I mean, you can leave less. I mean, there's no code on it. Some guys leave almost nothing, but I always make sure I'm about 2 inches back from the edge of the ridge, so it gets a really good airflow. So the ridge vents get good airflow. So that's something to think about. Let's see, what else? I think that's about it. I mean, there's not much tips and tricks to doing this. It's just getting the first row, snapping a chalk line instead of trusting the edge of the house. I mean, you can, but I like to snap a line. Once you set your first row up, it keeps the other ones in line. I also leave I use a framing nail here. It's just for my gapping, so I put one in there. I don't nail it, and I just use it to gap. So I just set it in there, and so the sheets have room to move in case they absorb moisture. I always do that. Some guys don't, but it's better. It's recommended anyway. The manufacturer recommends that you gap the sheets. So I always gap them with a 3-inch nail. And then let's see what else. I think that's that. Not much else to. Yeah, that's it. All right, back to work.